maps within to produce seagrass coverage maps within patchy and dense classifications within the aquatic preserve, which is different than USF just did presence and absence. So it's another kind of layer of looking at the variations between the mapping products. Also, the FDEP data sets for both St. Andrew and St. Joseph Bay are available for download on the Fish and Wildlife Research Institute statewide layer, which I'll have the link here on the next slide. If you're interested in knowing when we upload this new kind of seagrass data, when we get it shared to us from partners to the statewide layer, the information can be found on the SIMM newsletters. In addition to updating the statewide layer, the SIMM newsletters also include new publications, reports, conferences, workshops, symposiums, webinars, and other relevant resources. We believe this is a great resource to connect with partners and provide letters of support for grants that seek to fulfill seagrass mapping and monitoring efforts. We hope it also encourages folks to reach out and let us know about these proposals so we can incorporate these proposed and or awarded projects into our SIMM program investment strategy plans. As you all know, we want to know who is doing what, when, and where related to seagrass so that we can strategize how to stretch our SIMM funds annually and when we need to revisit an area. And that's all I have for my updates today. So thank you all so much for inviting us, and I'm excited to hear from everyone else.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? You can either drop them in the chat or come off mute. Right. Not seeing any. So we will go ahead and move on. I'm not sure I've seen Melanie log on. Melanie, are you there? Okay. We'll move on to Katie. Katie, would you like me to share your slides you provided, or would you prefer to do it on your own?
Sure, if you can run it, that would be helpful.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. That's an exciting update, Lauren.
Thanks. I'm excited to hear from you too.
All right.
Thanks, Jessica. Looks good.
Awesome. Take her away.
All right. Yeah, this is a brief update on one of the projects ongoing under the Tyndall Nature-Based Solution Project, and that is some seagrass habitat enhancements in St. Andrew Sound. So if you would, Jessica, please forward next slide. Just as a refresher, most folks are familiar with this. There are 4 what we're calling keystone nature-based solutions that are funded for installation. That are proposed for installation at Tyndall, and they're shown here on the map. So there's 2 in East Bay, and then the one shown in St. Andrew Sound includes both a submerged shoreline stabilization and a seagrass project. So our funders are shown there on the left, and lots of project partners working on this. Their logos are there on the right. Next slide, please. So the project site is on the Gulf side of Tyndall. It's directly across from the St. Andrew Sound Inlet, as you can see, and so it's a pretty intense wave climate. The site's characterized by sandy beach. For those who've been out to Buck Beach, it's a really beautiful area. There are dunes onshore and some patchy subtidal seagrass meadows immediately offshore. The image on the left here shows the significant shoreline retreat that has occurred. Over 700 feet has been lost since the mid-1900s, and the rate of retreat is certainly increasing. More than half of that loss, in fact, has occurred in the last 25 years. The image on the right in green, the green line shows the seagrass contour as reported in the statewide seagrass layer from 2011. And then the black line is University of Florida's 2022 survey of the SAB boundary. So over that time frame, 2011 to 2022, over 50 acres of seagrass have been lost at the site. And since then, since 2022, a lot more has been lost as well. Next slide, please, Jessica. This just gives you a sense, the picture on the left of the level of beach erosion ongoing at the site. And then the picture on the right, the remaining seagrass beds show evidence of ongoing erosion. Some of the theory is that this is caused by scour. Another theory is that it's potentially some grazing pressure occurring along the deep bed edge. And so you can see the grazed, what we're calling grazed seagrass of Serengodium there in figure 5 on the left, and then some ungrazed areas on the figure, part of the figure on the right as well. The Serengodium is the most dominant species there. There's also quite a bit of turtle grass. Go ahead, Jessica. So as I mentioned, there are two integrated projects here. The submerged shoreline stabilization includes a network of 12 breakwater structures. These are designed to attenuate the major driver of seagrass loss at the site. So they're going to attenuate 60 to 80% of wave energy. The idea is to stabilize that eroding shoreline and protect the adjacent habitats behind that. This project is not funded yet. It's nearly permitted. We're waiting for permit receipt, we think, in early January. But the installation date is to be determined. Next slide, please. The seagrass habitat protection and enhancement piece, this is something that we are moving forward with now. In fact, last summer of 24, we employed a small scale experiment to try to test the deployment of bamboo stakes. And the idea here was that those stakes would both deter herbivores and maybe provide some wave baffling effect as well. The results of that small scale experiment, which was done both in East Bay and in St. Andrew Sound, indicated recovery of seagrass blade length within the areas treated, as well as an increase in percent coverage over a year. And this work was just recently published. For folks interested, there's a QR code there on the bottom right in Restoration Ecology by Dr. Bea Marin Diaz and a few colleagues. Next slide, please, Jessica. This past summer in May 2025, that work was scaled up. We installed a 400-meter long bamboo stockade along what is the current deep bed edge of seagrass habitat at the Buck Beach site in St. Andrew Sound. This stockade was about 1 meter wide. It involved the same general deployment. You saw on the last slide a grid of bamboo stakes placed. They were about 3 feet apiece, and they were pushed into the sediment at least a third of the way down. The objective here, as I said, we're waiting for funding on that larger submerged shoreline stabilization project, is to try to prevent the ongoing and very rapid loss of seagrass at the site and really serve as a stopgap measure until we can get those structures in. So the colors indicate there's some treatment areas. There's definitely some suitable control sites in this area as well. We did a little bit of adaptive management and modification to the design during the deployment. Some of the bamboo were installed in a vertical pattern. A few of them were installed in a crisscross pattern. And let's see what I've got, Jessica, on the next slide. This is just an example of what it looks like as this is going out in the water. It's fairly shallow. You can see the waves breaking in the picture on the right. Each of the bamboo stakes was installed on approximately 10 centimeter distance from the next, following a grid, and this meter wide span. Next slide, please. So in terms of monitoring, this is a 1-year study. We're looking at SAV boundaries, we're looking at canopy height. Those two metrics specifically are being assessed with remote sensing and some side scan. We're also looking at chute length, chute density, and percent cover in situ quantitatively. More qualitatively, we're looking at rhizome exposure and the general condition of the bamboo stakes over time. So this past September, October was our most recent survey. We saw, as you can see in the picture, really substantial loss of seagrass outside of the area treated, and about 10 meters of additional seagrass retreat from that deep bed edge. So some of the bamboo was installed not along the direct edge of where the seagrass was remaining, but a bit offset to the back. So we did see retreat up to where the bamboo was installed. And in some cases, like the picture is showing, we saw retreat both on the waterward and on the shoreward side of the treatment. We also saw that chute length, chute density, and percent cover were greater in the treated area than in the control. There was some bamboo that needed to be repaired, about 20% of it, which wasn't too bad. Some of that was due to perhaps like a kayak going across the site. There's some gaps in the treatment that allow wildlife passage as well as boat passage, but some of the bamboo were either displaced or broken in some way. One piece of adaptive management we also did to the design in September, October was add some sod staples in the areas where the rhizomes are severely peeling away, and that seems to be doing really well so far. So the team's going to go back out in May 2026. That'll be the 1 year time point to do the last monitoring event, repair the bamboo again, and we'll make a decision at that time on whether or not to extend this study. But at this point, it does appear to be working pretty well, despite ongoing seagrass loss there. And I think the next slide might be it, Jessica. Yeah, thanks. If folks have questions, just drop my email there. And what we are seeing is a lot of continued great biodiversity on the site, some scallops out there as well. So that's great to see. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you. That's a very interesting results. All right, we've got one question. How was wave energy measured?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, the wave modeling was completed as part of the design for the submerged shoreline stabilization structure. Right now, there are some SETI meters out there and some wave gauges to continue to monitor that energy, but those results are going to come in probably next spring. Hopefully that answers. If not, I can follow up.
Yeah. All right. Did you see evidence of grazing grass loss due to urchins, or was it more from larger herbivores?
Yeah. Hey, Megan. I haven't seen a lot of urchins there. I imagine they are there though. We are seeing a lot of turtles and a lot of manatees. I'm sorry, definitely a lot of turtles, and I've seen a few manatees traversing the area. So we think it's probably mostly that, but I don't know actually, Megan, if you have data on the prevalence of urchins in that area. That might be helpful.
I don't for that particular area, but there are some other areas in the sound that we've been seeing higher numbers like we were seeing in St. Joe. So I was just curious if you were seeing it in this area as well.
Yeah, we're keeping our eye out, not in any heavy quantity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Katie, you mentioned that the beach there is eroding fast. Do you know where the sediment is going? Is it causing inundation of other seagrass beds elsewhere in St. Andrews Sound?
Yeah, so the shoreline is eroding, and there used to be a just slightly submerged kind of shelf, a seagrass shelf there, and that is kind of eroding as well. So the elevation is decreasing. It appears that the sediment, and some of the initial surveys we've done on sediment transport have also indicated is coming away from directly across from the inlet and curving out to either side. And so there's some accumulation occurring just to the east of this site and some accumulation occurring just to the west. But it's a very unstable system. A lot of changes occurred in addition to the erosion directly along the beach. There's some erosion ongoing along some of the barrier islands as well. And so we're continuing to keep an eye on that and try to get a better handle of, is it just happening sort of in this localized area, or are we getting some inputs of sediment or maybe some takeouts of sediment in other parts of the system closer to Shell, what am I trying to say? Shell Point and down along the Mexico Beach range as well.
So some of the sediment is actually going out the inlet and maybe through literal drift going down the coastline. Is that what you're saying?
It's possible. Yeah, and most of our monitoring is localized to the sound from the inlet, shoreward. But yeah, we're trying to take a bigger look now at some of those changes occurring along the broader geography.
So that sediment isn't inundating seagrass beds elsewhere in the sound?
I think that's a good question, and one we're starting to look at. So we're seeing the scour and we're seeing the sediment move. There's also a recent signal we're seeing in the SETI meter data where it looks like slight burial across the existing seagrass bed as well. So I think both things are happening, and we're just trying to figure out how much of which one of those things is really driving the seagrass blade length to be so short and then erode from that deep bed edge towards the shoreline.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So thank you, Katie. We will move on to Matt. Matt, did you want me to share your slides you provided, or would you prefer to drive your ship?
No, I'll let you share.
Okay.
Zoom doesn't always cooperate with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for giving us a chance to share some updates.
Yeah.
First off, I'll share some information about the Florida TIG Oyster Data Gaps program. You can go on to the next slide. Just to kind of remind everyone, essentially this was a Deepwater Horizon settlement funded project to address oyster data gaps throughout the Gulf in 6 different estuaries, one of which is St. Andrew Bay. You can go on to the next slide. So the project was split up into 4 main tasks. The first of which was data compilation. That was pulling all the available data that we could find together to look for water quality and oyster data and develop current status and trends. So that was our first step. That has actually been completed back in 2021, I believe. The second was to identify areas that had not had benthic oyster habitat mapping done in the recent past. St. Andrew Bay was one of those areas that was identified as not having a survey of benthic oyster habitat in at least 10 or more years. So we used a number of resources to identify what areas to actually map, and had the University of New Hampshire and Substructure map, I believe it was a few hundred, if not 1,000 acres of St. Andrew Bay. Actually presented on that back in April to this group. The final report is now complete and available for those that want it. And the data itself has informed the Oyster in Florida layer. And so that has actually been updated as well. So when you actually go online, you can actually see the areas that we've identified as actual oyster habitats. The third task was the field assessments and monitoring. That started off with an initial bay-wide survey in 2022 to essentially figure out what was even there. Using that information informed what we mapped, and also informed where we would set up our monthly monitoring stations for sediment and oyster spat recruitment. That was ongoing through 2023 to 2025, and actually last week was our final final retrieval of those spat traps. So we'll be working on processing those samples and processing the data for those, and hopefully that all that data will be available to you guys in the next couple of months. So all that kind of builds up to a GIS-based habitat suitability index. That was the main idea of what all of this is kind of building up to inform some of those things that some bay systems already had it, like Pensacola Bay, that some bay systems like St. Andrew did not. You can go on to the next slide. So that HSI will be used as an aid for future restoration, and we'll provide areas that have not had any HSI, but it'll also update any information for those bay systems like Tampa and Pensacola that already have an HSI in place. We've prioritized the Suwannee Sound area, as there's currently funding to actually do oyster restoration, that they are getting ready to, hopefully put rock in the water here in the next few months to years. It's always a slow process with oyster restoration, but we're trying to provide them those maps that will give them a good idea of where they should focus their efforts. And once those HSIs are actually getting very close to done, we're doing ground truthing right now in Suwannee Sound to kind of verify the effort that's gone into the models. We're having good results so far, and those will easily be able to be transferred or translated to areas like St. Andrew, just swapping out the data and using the same parameters. So we're hoping that should all be done and ready to go by the end of 2026. So it's been a nice project, and glad to see it coming to fruition. I was also going to touch on a little bit, I don't have slides for it, but a little bit about our scallop work in St. Joe. We were able to complete our pre-season survey of scallops in St. Joe, and found actually better results than last year. Not the best results of all time, but still pretty good. And as probably many of you know, in the middle of the recreational season, it was closed due to red tide. And since it was ongoing red tide, we did not actually end up doing our postseason survey, as we were pretty sure most of everything had already died. Also, it's not quite safe to do diving in red tide waters. But the NERDA project that's been funding our surveys and our fisheries dependent work is also ending this year, but we are still planning on doing pre and post season surveys in St. Andrew and St. Joe when it comes back around, and hopefully there will be a little bit less red tide for next year.
Awesome. Are there any questions? All right. Yeah.
I have a question, Jessica. This is Katie.
Okay.
Matt, do you anticipate that FWRI would push out any sort of guidance document on the methods or metrics that went into the HSIs, and is there any level of standardization or comparability among those ones that are included in this grant?
Yes, it will be. We'll release a full report that breaks down all of the methods that we used. All of the code will be freely available and be able to be run on R. So again, another free and open source platform. And yeah, it is meant to be, convertible to any base system that has acceptable data, really.
Great, thanks.
We have a question in the room.
Sure. What parameters go into computing the oyster habitat suitability index?
I was only told this was a 5-minute talk, but
it is an index.
Yep. So there is a number of items, including things like temperature and salinity, existing or historic oyster habitat, depth, let's see, I'm sure I'm also missing a couple of other ones. But they have also overlaid some of the things to aid some of that restoration by including things like Gulf sturgeon habitat and shellfish harvest areas that may also inform where you might want to put oyster restoration. You're not obviously not going to want to put a fishable bar in a place that's going to be closed, even if it is great habitat, and vice versa. If you're wanting to put something that is protected from fishing, you may not want to put it somewhere that is open to fishing.
So there's no parameter that deals with substrate?
Yeah, well, there would be like bottom type is, I believe, one of the parameters. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have them all in front of me at the moment.
Yeah, there's usually a huge number that go into HSIs, like a lot of different parameters that go into them. If you do have time, Matt, it would be interesting to be able to look at a list of those if you just wouldn't mind sending them over.
Yeah, I can do that.
And then we had one question in the chat. Will the data for the Oyster project and scallop surveys be posted on CCAR?
Let's see. Is it posted on CCAR? I'm not sure that it is, but I believe it has an entry on CCAR for both of those projects. And so I don't believe that we actually post the data on there, but you can request it pretty much from me.
Okay.
Yeah, so the data is available to those that are interested.
Just through request to you.
Right.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's move on to Cassidy. Did I see Cassidy? There she is.
Hey. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we've got you.
Okay.
Are you going to share slides?
I am actually just going to share this map.
Okay. I'll stop
yes.
sharing.
Perfect.
You might need to record.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. There we go.
Yep.
Hi. So today I'm just going to be talking briefly about the oyster reef restoration work that we have been conducting in St. Andrews Bay. And this has been a 10-year or approximately 10-year project. I believe that phase one was back in about 2016, if I'm remembering correctly, but I have not been here for the duration of this project. And we started off with the first three phases being oyster reef. And then we actually switched over to seagrass for 2 phases of this habitat restoration work that we did. And then what I'm giving an update on today is actually the phase 6 oyster reefs that were installed this year. So we used the remainder of our grant funding and then also some internal funding to complete construction on 16 oyster reefs in this area. So they are going to be the ones up here that are in blue. They did go over phase 1 and phase 2 reefs that did not have material anymore. So it's over the footprint of the reefs that were already there. And we used limestone material to create these 150-foot structures. That was completed in early fall of this year. And we do have those permits remaining open, I believe, until the end of next year, if I'm not mistaken. If we are able to find more funding, we will be able to go out and complete construction on some more of those. But as of right now, we have been able to finish up 16 of them. If we were to do more, if we were able to construct more, they would start going over these bottom orange oyster reefs, as those are not limestone reefs. So our phase 3 reefs were the first time that we had put limestone in the water for this project. And we went out and took a look at them, and they are covered in oysters and doing well, with all sorts of animals crawling all over them. That was as of the summer this year. And I'm not certain when the next time those reefs will be monitored, but we're hoping to see some great reports on that with the data later. So that's the only update that we have from my side.
Hey, Cassidy, can you push hide so we can see the rest of that legend?
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know why that's on that side at all.
Thank you so much, Cassidy. I mean, this project has been a long-term project that's gone through a lot of pieces and parts, and I mean, it's really turning into something fantastic.
Yes,
hopefully you can find some additional funding to keep it going.
Yeah. Oh, hang on, this is not working. I'm going to stop the share on this one.
Okay.
Yes, no, this has been an incredible project. And I mean, they're still processing the data from, I want to say, phase 3 or phase 2. Like, they're still working on publishing and getting all that stuff out for everyone to be able to see. So
yeah,
this has been an incredible project.
All right, any questions? Okay, we'll move on to Meg. And then Meg, do you have slides? Okay, there you go.
See, all right, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
great. There's a little bit of maintenance construction going on in the background, so if you hear a power tool, it's our maintenance guys. I
Okay.
apologize. All right, are you all seeing it in presenter mode, or is it my regular screen?
Your regular screen.
Okay. How about now?
Still regular.
Hmm. Let's see. Let's try this again. Any better, or are we just seeing presenter mode?
It's like you're editing your PowerPoint screen.
All right, somebody who's more Zoom
They
savvy, direct me.
Can you go? Yeah. Have you hit the from the beginning?
Yeah, that's what I was hitting, and it goes to this.
Okay, if you go down to the bottom where the zoom bar is, there's like the right next to the minus zoom out, there's a presenter screen. Try that button.
Which?
It looks like a pedestal, like a screen on a pedestal.
This guy?
Oh, I can't see a
Block
mouse.
or unblock?
It's bottom right corner where there's plus and minus, where you can make the screen bigger and smaller.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
No?
Now it's your presenter mode, so go up to display settings in the top left and just hit switch.
Okay.
Swap.
How about now?
Now it's
Oh my
perfect.
gosh. Whew. All right. Thank you, everyone.
No problem.
Anyways, so I will be sharing a little bit about the Central Panhandle Aquatic Preserve program as a whole. I'm going to start off a little bit with our structure as a program, because I know that's not something that everyone is familiar with. And and then talk a little bit about some of our successes for the years, some of the hurdles we've had to deal with, and what we'll be looking forward to. So we are a part of DEP's Office of Resilience and Coastal Protection. As everyone knows, everybody likes to use their acronyms. There are 43 aquatic preserves around the state in Florida, essentially creating some sort of statutory coverage for most of the coastal waters and a few of the inland waters. So we have some rivers and springs in the system as well. Central Panhandle, my office covers 4 of those. So we have Alligator Harbor, Apalachicola Bay, St. Joe, and St. Andrews across 3 counties. I am housed at the Apalachicola Nerve Facility in East Point, so there's a lot of overlap between us and the research reserve. So a little bit about what we do. It's a little bit of everything as far as maintaining the aquatic preserve program. We have water quality monitoring, both on a monthly time scale and continuous data loggers. We do annual seagrass monitoring in all of the aquatic reserves, as well as foster some restoration projects, whether directly or as permit holders. We also monitor a living shoreline that we installed in about 5 years ago, right here behind our facility, and then participate in various outreach and education programs. We maintain monofilament tubes for recycling. Every once in a while, we get calls because there's an injured bird that somebody needs to pick up. And then we rely heavily on these partnerships. So we're kind of the jack of all trades when it comes to managing these areas. So some of the things that we can cheer about this year, it was a very seagrass heavy year for us as far as the successes go. We were able to get to all 4 of our aquatic preserves and get that annual monitoring done, which was exciting for us because between staff turnover and other projects we're juggling, we didn't get to do that last year. So there was missing data from last year. So we did get to all 4 this year, and Liz from the SWRI program was able to come out with us this year and get out in the water and, you know, get to see most of St. Andrews APs. So that was really great. We wrapped up the NERDA funded seagrass recovery project. Originally it was supposed to be a 3-year project. It was a propeller scar restoration project in St. Joe Bay, restoration of almost 400 scars in the bay. It turned out to be about a 4.5-year project, but I know y'all know kind of how that goes. But it installed sediment tubes into these propeller scars that were identified as suitable for restoration. And then annually we would go back to these identified scars and measure, monitor, document how they were filling in, any changes. So that monitoring was completed in August, and our final report was put out about a month later. I kind of blasted that out as soon as we got it put together and approved because we were excited to be done with it. But if you would like to see it, I'd be glad to share it with you. We also were not directly involved with the implementation, but RAP is the permit holder for prop scar restoration in St. Andrews. So Sea and Shoreline and Coastal Conservation got a grant from DEP to do a similar project in St. Andrews and some of the heavily scarred areas, primarily in those areas kind of where everyone pulls up near Shell Island and Grand Lagoon. So they wrapped that up, I believe a month ago. They finished the final installation, maybe late October. So they installed sediment tubes and they direct planted aliduli into the sediment tubes. So the implementation part of that is completed and they're going to be monitoring the next couple of years. And then we also have, there was bare root planting down in St. Joe. If anyone remembers John Brucker, he wants everyone to know that he was the first to get DEP's general permit for seagrass installation. He was very proud of that fact. If you're not familiar with it, it's a new general permit that basically fast tracks seagrass planting because you're not doing any sort of fill or anything like that. It's up to 20 acres. So they put 8 acres worth of plants in St. Joe for us. And they are monitoring that as well. So it looks like right now they installed, I believe, in late August. And as of October, they had about an 80% survival rate in some of these areas.
Nice.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's just a success to be able to keep things going. So we were able to keep our water quality program going on time. We have not only our continuous data loggers in Alligator Harbor and St. Joe Bay that take real-time data in 15-minute intervals. So we have that. They need to be swapped out and maintained every month. And then we also go out and do grab samples and nutrient sampling in several of our aquatic preserves. So we've kept that on track. We have our Cat Point Living Shoreline that we still, the implementation's completed, has been for several years, but we keep tabs on it. We do bivalve monitoring, vegetation surveys, and we've been on track with that. We partner with several local agencies to conduct an aquaculture gear cleanup in Alligator Harbor. So we try and get that done when the tides are lower and before the nesting shorebirds show up. So we partner with FWC Shorebird Program, the local state parks, the aquaculture guys come in with their boats. And it's a really great partnership because not only does it get the debris out of the aquatic preserve and off the shoreline, but it gives the people working in the industry the chance to reclaim their lost gear, or anything that's unclaimed, they can put it to use. So it kind of creates a circular economy for lost gear. And we also participate in international coastal cleanup every year. So not only did we partner with the state park to have a site at Alligator Harbor, but we got a new site set up for coastal cleanup at the buffer preserve. So they tied it in with their 30th anniversary celebration in St. Joe and had their first coastal cleanup this year. So that was exciting. And then we've just maintained our regular outreach and education programs. So the Friends of St. Joseph Bay Preserves is the collective friends group that supports both my aquatic preserve and the buffer preserve. And they have a lot of annual membership events that are really good outreach opportunities for us. I gave the March Tides and Talks. So that was exciting about our seagrass, and it was still in progress. So we can now say that it's wrapped up. And then Seafood Festival, if you've never been in Apalachicola, is a huge draw. There's tens of thousands of people that come every year, and we always partner with some of the local environmental agencies, the NER Conservation Corps, FSU's Marine Lab. We all kind of have an environmental corner to catch the people that, might love the bay and seafood, but not necessarily know how to protect the resource. So it's kind of a unique group of people that we get in touch with. Now to some of our challenges that we've run into regularly that I'm sure some of these are very familiar to some of you. My program does not actually have an annual operating budget. We are primarily funded by our NERDA funded projects, which was, they were established to get the aquatic preserve program back open in 2015 after they were closed by the governor in 2010. So they were a way for the program to get its foot in the door and back up and running. But we're coming to a time where some of those projects have either reached the end of their lifespan or are approaching quickly. Unfortunately, so luckily for us, we're housed at the NER. The NER does a great job of supporting our needs, both in the form of staff salary and any other support we need. But with some of the federal funding issues we've been seeing, that's where a lot of their budget comes from. So it can be difficult. It does lead to staff turnover because, as Davis is well aware, living in this area, it can be very difficult to find housing. And because our onboarding process and DEP's dive requirements for our projects, sometimes we have some of these delays that lead us to face some hurdles and get behind on some projects. So it's kind of a story that I'm sure you're all familiar with, but we are a small but mighty team that accomplishes quite a bit with what we do have. And then some of the external challenges that we have faced, primarily in the St. Joe Bay area. If you have not been over this way in quite a while, it's almost unrecognizable in some areas how much land clearing and development's going on. We have, I think between the start of Port St. Joe and Mexico Beach, there are 6 or 7 new large-scale housing developments. So we're seeing a lot of habitat shifts and a lot of effects of the growing population and just habitat change, things like that. You know, red tide was mentioned a couple of times. So the top left photo is actually a picture of the Stump Hole kayak launch in St. Joe Bay. It's right at the corner on the Cape. So when you hit that area with the big rocks, when you're driving out into the Cape, and then the picture next to it was sent to me from someone on our Friends board that lives near the state park in the Eagle Harbor area. So that was about a month ago when we were really experiencing that peak in the bay. We've also just been seeing general shifts in the seagrass. The top right photo is the drift algae that we were seeing last year. We tend to see it every year, but it seems to be persisting a little bit longer. The middle photo is Stump Hole as well, and we're seeing expansion of mangroves into the area. We're not really quite sure what effect that might have on the local habitat. There's some concerns about the interaction and the competition between salt marshes and mangroves as they expand into the area. And we're just kind of seeing a general shift in the seagrass itself. The bottom left photo is pretty much sunburnt seagrass. We have these really shallow areas that water gets really hot right around July and August, and we get this kind of brown, crunchy seagrass. And the bottom right is an area that experienced quite a bit of loss from urchin grazing. And then as it, you know, the grass is coming back, but it's also kind of being taken over and shifting to these algal communities. So that's actually red calcareous algae. It's like the coralline algae. And then in other areas, we've also seen the acetabularia, where there used to be seagrass, is now dominated by macroalgae. So we're just kind of seeing these habitat shifts in the bay, which this was put together by the analysts that did the aerial imagery for us, as well as compared to the 2010 layer provided by FWC. And you can see the amount of loss that we've experienced in both St. Joe and St. Andrews. We do have an issue primarily in St. Joe with urchin grazing, but the scarring is also an issue. That top photo was taken right at that shallow corner into Grand Lagoon in September. So this is an area that Sea and Shoreline was addressing with the sediment tubes. But, you know, unfortunately, with the number of tourists that rent pontoon boats in the area, who knows until it looks like that again. And then the bottom photo, I know it's through the water column, so it's a little difficult to see. But all of those little white dots in the darker area, those are the little shell hats that the urchins like to wear. So This was at one of our water quality sites in St. Joe near the Cape. And I mean, there were just piles of urchins there. So we're really seeing the areas that we're not seeing urchins anymore is essentially because they've eaten all the grass and have moved on. So we are seeing some recovery. We had mixed success with our restoration. And unfortunately, the urchin front is just something that's persisted in St. Joe. We're also seeing some in St. Andrews, and we're not quite sure when they're going to slow down and what's really driving it. But it's not all depressing and doom and gloom. We're really continuing to uphold and build on some of the partnerships that we have. We've worked with Moat as part of the response to the red tide. We were sharing information, photos with them. We're going to have Kevin Claridge from Moat is actually going to do a public speaking series for us, both at the Friends annual meeting and here at ANER in January, to kind of dispel some of the local myths and answer people's questions about red tide and things like that. Also sharing some of the new technology with the Red Tide Initiative, working with the Conservation Corps on living shoreline and seagrass restoration. And then there's also the Florida Bivalve and Seagrass Consortium for the co-restoration of bivalves, mainly hard clams and seagrass. We're going to be helping out Florida State Marine Lab. And then we've gotten lots of new fun toys at DEP recently. That are really going to advance our technological capabilities, RTK units, some fancy drone technology that's going to help us monitor some of our sites. Tomorrow, we're actually diving in Wakulla Springs. One of my staff, Matt, is going to be doing his dive checkout, and we're going to be helping them scrub their glass bottom boats. So go check out Wakulla Spring if you get a chance to see all the cool stuff on the bottom. We also have some future restoration plans. So Aquatech will be moving on to St. Andrews. So that same general permit, they have approximately a 16-acre area, I believe, picked out that they're going to put some plants in. And we are playing catch up. It is tough. I'm a newer manager. I have younger staff, and there's a bit of a learning curve, but everybody's hit the ground running. So we are almost caught up. Just need to get the Oyster project on board, and we will be all caught up. So that is our 2025 in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of our projects, or if anyone would like me to share any of our reports, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions? Not seeing or hearing any. Well, thank you all to our presenters for giving us a little insight into everything that you've had going on. It's fantastic. I do just want to briefly share. I won't take a lot of time. Oh, I hate. Always makes like switching my tabs. So we put together a little bit of an impact report to share kind of our progress over the past year, and Zoom sucks. Yeah. Okay. Can everyone see that? I hope so. All right.
Yep, we can see it.
So this is available online, but just quick, we haven't put together something like this before. It's always just sort of been accomplishments. And so working with the Nature Conservancy through the SUNS project, and then it will kind of merge into, well, it's SUNS 2.0 now, and then we're going to continue it on. But it's really been making an impact. And so through our restoration program, we've worked to identify 10 new projects in 2025. One project was complete 60% design. 3 of those projects are being brought to a feasibility level of design. With planning, we've had 15 different data sets compiled, 5 projects identified through that. 1 publication was put out, and then 6 interactive tools. So we apparently really like to make dashboards and tools to kind of present our data, but 6 in 1 year is something. Research and monitoring. So this is primarily through our Sea Stars grant, but there's also some other side grants that we've had. 800 fish that Liz has caught with partners, 182 sediment samples taken, and 34 technical summaries. So the technical summaries are sort of like our homeowner reports or summaries that we've put together. So I think Meg and Matt provided us reports that we synthesized into a 1 or 2 page summaries. So that is included in that as well. Stewardship. So we are doing our vertical oyster gardens, ties and talks, outreach events, and then we had 270 registrations for our Race for the Bays, which was almost 100 people increase, not quite, about 80 more people than last year. So the event is growing, planning already for next year. And then I won't read through all of this, but we put together kind of our progress on our CCMP. So it's a little over about 1.5 years since we published the CCMP, and just trying to put some metric of measurement. So what we did was just take how many actions are in each of these, or how many activities are in each of the actions, and then broke it into 4 different stages of completion. And so we kind of threw in kind of where we are with the different goals. It was nice to see on some of them that we've actually made progress on. This, of course, does not measure the status of the system. So it's not 44% better, but we have made progress on 44% of our actions. And then obviously this was an interesting exercise to see what we are not making progress on and where our gaps are. And so just kind of trying to make sure we're measuring what we're doing and how we are relating it to the CCMP. So you can, if you're interested, go through that online. We had 6 proposals we submitted. Our goal is to submit 8 this year. Obviously, it'll depend on how many proposal opportunities there even are, but we requested over $5 million. And then starting to put our financials out a little more publicly. We have them in our board books, which are all public, but not everybody's gonna, go through those. We highlighted the Race for the Bays, and then just trying to figure out what are we gonna do next year. So we put a little bit of a vision together and kind of what is closing out. So we've got 3 grants we're closing out, and then also 3 grants we're bringing on. So it's been a busy year, and it's gonna be a busier year. All right. Any questions, comments? All right, on to announcements. I know there's 2 people online that I saw emails or announcements from. Feel free if you would like to make those announcements here, Cassidy and Lauren. I don't see them coming off of mute. Oh,
Hey, yeah, so Becca sent around. I'll be finishing up my time here as the SIMM program coordinator at the end of the calendar year. So if you have any knowledge of someone that is interested in seagrass mapping and monitoring, likes talking to people all across the state of Florida, maybe has a little GIS skills, definitely forward on that job posting, which we also have on the My Florida Jobs website. Thank you.
And where are you going off to, Lauren?
I'm moving to upstate New York.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So I will be investing in a dry suit for my next
Oh yeah.
snorkeling adventure. But thank you.
You can get those like heated shirts as well. I highly recommend.
Yes, I did ask for thermal socks and hand warmers in my stockings this year.
Well, amazing.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
And yeah, so hi everybody, it's Cassidy again. I am also going to be switching positions. Today is my last day as the Northwest regional biologist for the FWC estuary team, marine estuary team. And I will be switching down to the South region. And then we will actually be posting the position, I believe, mid-January, and we'll be sure to send it around.
Great. Well, congratulations. Sorry to see you go. Any other announcements that anyone would like to make? Job or not job related? Not seeing any. Well, thank you all for your time today. Thank you to the presenters. And Merry Christmas.